Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of Arrow. And oh my gosh. So, at the end of last week's episode, we got the big reveal that Slade was alive. Obviously, we already knew that, but Oliver did not. And he showed up at Moira Queen's house and was talking some politico business with her when Oliver showed up. And tonight's episode picks up right where it left off. So, all week I've been wondering, how big are they going to go? What are they going to reveal? What are they going to show us? And they did not disappoint. We got some really, really great flashbacks back to the island. And they spent a lot of time showing how they got onto the freighter, their plan to take out Dr. Ivo, what was going to go down. And it was epic. So, we also got to see Oliver, transitioning into the Oliver that we know now, this amazing guy who can fight and can throw an arrow and can jump off of big top structures and, do these amazing chin-ups and pull-ups and then, climb that salmon ladder like it's nobody's business. And so we got to see like his, a nice little montage of his progression, and then it was finally time to crash the freighter. And obviously the plan was for him to get caught so that he could get onto the freighter. And Sarah already knew what Dr. Ivo was like. So she had a feeling that he would, give Oliver a truth serum, and that's exactly what he did. So of course when that scene happens, you're like, oh my God, here we go. This is how Slade is going to find out that Shadow got killed by him. And it's just like, oh no. And it's a ruse because he just does that to try to make it seem like he's out of it, like he's telling the truth about things when he's really fine. And so, of course, Sarah, Slade, and Oliver are kicking butt. And they're taking everybody out of the prison cells, and they're trying to free everybody. But there's the crazy security on the freighter who are shooting up the place, and it's like complete pandemonium. People are getting shot up here. People are jumping here. It's just complete madness. And finally, Oliver catches up to Dr. Ivo, who's on the phone with his wife, and her name was Jessica. And it sounds like she was sick because she was like, I had a husband named Anthony before, and, he doesn't exist anymore, basically. And obviously, he's been away all this time because he's been trying to come up with a cure. He's been trying to come up with something that will heal, obviously, his wife, Jessica. And he's like, I'm really close to it. I've got it, And she's just like, you don't exist to me anymore. And it was pretty cool to hear, the whole reasoning behind him doing all this craziness, not just so that he can create like an army full of people with this Mirakura in it, or is that how you say it? Yeah, whatever's running through Slade's veins. But it was to save his wife. And then ultimately he gets caught by Oliver, and this is when the truth comes out. And he's like, you made me choose, you did this, you did that, you're the one who killed Shadow. And, Oliver's got the bow and arrow pointing at him, and he's taunting him basically, and Oliver is, admitting to his part in it. And then right when he's about to, or you think he's about to kill him, all of a sudden, Dr. Ivo says, well, what do you think he's going to do about this? And of course, Oliver turns around and Slade is standing behind him. And he has overheard the entire conversation about Oliver confessing to choosing Sarah over Shadow. And this is the beginning of the end for their budding relationship. And it was so sad because, they were all a team heading onto this freighter. And he said, before we were, trying to leave this island as not really enemies, but like as just, people who are just trying to get off the island. And now we're going onto this freighter as friends. And it was just like, oh, so heartbreaking, already knowing that they are so not friends anymore. So of course now, Slade has lost it, and he is vowing vengeance on Oliver. And we know he's got super strength, right? So at one point he literally like picks up Oliver and he's got him by the neck and he's got him up at the ceiling, and Oliver's like, look man, I didn't do it on purpose, and I can explain everything, but Slade's not trying to hear any of it. And of course Dr. Ivo's trying to sneak out of the way, and then finally Oliver, because there's a big crash or something, and Oliver falls and Slade falls, and then he gets away, and he meets up with Sarah and a couple of these other people, and they're like, we need to get off this freighter because it is not happening. Like, we need to go. And they get off, but Oliver gets caught by Slade. And of course he like grabs him by the ankle, and then he pulls him up, and I'm like, what? And then I was like, oh yeah, he's superhuman. So he basically locks up Oliver into this jail cell, and he's pretty much vowed that he's going to torture him for as long as he possibly can. And when he has him in the cell, he takes him out and he's like, I want to show you something. And then Dr. Ivo comes out, and obviously they've captured him. And Slade's like, you are the one who killed Shadow, and I want to see how you did it. So he gives him a gun, and he's pointing it out at Oliver, and he's like, is this how you did it? Is this how you pointed the gun at her? And Dr. Ivo's like, yeah. And then boom, Slade cuts off his hand, and it's just like, yikes. Oh boy. And of course, Oliver's trying to talk him down off the crazy tree. And he's like, listen, you're not thinking straight. You've got this Mirakuru in your system. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, I don't care. You killed the woman that I love. And now we're done. So, he literally looks at Oliver in the face, and he's basically like, killing you would be mercy. And I am going to wish you were dead, pretty much. And that is like the end of the flashback scenes. Oh, one other very important thing that happened in those flashbacks is Oliver and Sarah wanted to burn the Mirakuru serum, blah, 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 so that there's no way that Dr. Ivo could get a hold of it if all hell broke loose. So Slade agrees, but he did not actually have any serum in the box that Oliver lit on fire. So that is why Slade is able to recreate the serum, because he still had it on him. So by the end, he shows Oliver that he still has the serum. And there you have it, guys. So back in like the present day, of course, Oliver is just like trying to get this man out of his house. And Moira is like not having any of it. She's like, Oliver, stop being so rude to like our guest. And, the two of them are just sizing each other up. They're basically just, saying all these things that are such like, obviously back like double talk, because they're talking about stuff that happened on the island, but they're talking about it now. They're, just how important family is and what you would do for anybody that you loved, and blah, 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 blah. So all of a sudden we hear a voice at the door. It's Thea. So now Thea has arrived at the house, and of course Oliver is just trying to get his family out of there. And then they start taking Slade around on this tour. And obviously by the end of the episode, we realize exactly what he was up to, and he was literally putting cameras all over the house. So now the house is wired, and he can see everything that's going on. What was super awesome in this scene was when Oliver decided to call Felicity, and this is when we finally got to see like Felicity, Diggle, Sarah, and Roy in present day. And Roy was, working out in the bunker, and I believe he was shooting an arrow. I think that's what he was doing, shirtless, of course. And then Sarah was helping him out. And then Felicity and Diggle came in. And this is when they now realize, because Sarah hears the voice, that Slade is alive. And she's like, we need to get to that house now, because he will kill Oliver and his entire family. So the plan is on. Roy is there on the mission. His job is to get Thea and the mom out of the house. Sarah does some wicked shimmy up a side of the house and climbs up onto this railing and just like up to her tummy. I'm like, these guys were wicked gymnasts back in the day. That's all I'm saying. So she gets into the house, and of course, when Roy comes in, he introduces himself to Slade, and Slade's like, that's a firm hand grip you've got there. And he's like, the same with you. And then they're both basically sizing each other up, because they both have the Mirakuru serum in their bodies. So that was kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, Sarah comes in from upstairs and comes down the stairs, and Moira's like, I didn't hear you come in. And then she walks over. She's like, oh, hi, Ollie. And this is when Slade hears her voice for the first time, and he turns around and he sees Sarah. So Sarah and Oliver are standing beside each other like, what you gonna do? And it was just awesome. So he's like, and that's exactly what Oliver says to him. He's just like, so, Mr. Wilson, what now? Or something like that. What's your next move? Or like, what are you gonna do now? And then he kind of does this like slow turn back, and he looks over at Roy, and he's like, yeah, it's time for me to part this evening. And of course he does the handshake and kiss to Moira, and Oliver walks him out to his car. Now, what also was supposed to happen in this moment was Diggle was outside with like a kill shot ready to take from outside of the house. And all of a sudden, right as they're walking outside, boom, Diggle gets hit upside the head. Who has him? I wonder who. It's Amanda Waller. I know you're coming for him. You better stay away from my boy. Anyway, so of course, Slade is not going to be 2 steps behind, and he even says to Oliver, so I guess you're wondering how come Diggle hasn't taken the kill shot yet? And he's like, don't worry, he's still alive. for now. And then he goes to get into his wicked car, his wicked little Porsche. And he says to Oliver, like, Oliver's like, what do you want? And he says, I made a promise to you 5 years ago when we were on that island, and I plan to live up to that promise. And what is that promise? He's going to torture, maim, do whatever he can to Oliver to make him suffer. And it is just like, oh no, here we go. I loved it, guys. I loved every single second of this episode. It was good. Like, I was on the edge of my seat because I just had no idea where it was going to go. Like, could they have had their heated exchange in this moment? It was sort of like that slow creep because you had the family all around them. You had Oliver obviously freaking out internally. You know, everybody back in the lair didn't know what was going on. And then, of course, when they figured it out, they were hot on the trail. And all those flashback scenes, the craziness that happened on that freighter, just showing all the prep leading up to them, you know, about to take over the freighter, seeing the bond and the friendship between them. You know, obviously Slade was so out of the loop and he didn't know the truth. And, you know, it was really sad when he saw that. And you could just see the devastation on his face when he took that mask off and he was just like, is it true? Like, did you really choose Sarah over the woman that I loved? And so even when we're in present day and he looks at Sarah and he's like, yeah, like something like, it must be nice to have the, you know, you're the one who was, everyone thought was dead. And he's just like, it must be nice to have the woman that you love or something like that back here. And it's just like, oh man, like he is not letting go of this vendetta at all. Whew, I cannot wait to see what happens next, guys. Let me know what you thought of this episode. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.